theatre, film, TV and more. Suzy Rong reviews it all on Joy Drive.
Good afternoon, Suzy Rong.
Hello, Warren. I just dropped my microphone and everything. Are you well?
I'm well, thank you. How are you going?
Good. You know, sometimes you don't need your TV programs to be great works of art. You just need it to be a really great distraction, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. I love it when it's a distraction. And this week we're talking about it's a Japan's first same-sex dating show, I believe, Suzy.
That's right. It's something that we haven't seen before, literally.
It's called The Boyfriend, and I have to admit, I mean, you know, you and I share personal information. We're quite open with each other, which I really love. Now, you know, I've been single for a couple of years now, which I'm quite comfortable with, but my last partner was Japanese, so I was very excited to see how a Japanese dating show works. What did you think of it?
It begins with 5 men in their 20s and 30s meeting for the first time at a house in Yokohama, Japan. They're to live together and operate a coffee truck. But more importantly, surprise, surprise, to fall in love. This new reality series on Netflix is called The Boyfriend, a groundbreaking moment in Japanese television history, being the first ever gay dating program in a country that has yet to legalize same-sex unions. It could be that the genre is brand new for the region, or it could just be our cultural difference that makes the relationships in The Boyfriend seem so innocent to my Australian eyes in these first 6 episodes. It may seem initially to be like a Love Island type show, but from what I have seen these few days, there is nothing raunchy or unscrupulous about these characters. They are all sweet, so lovely. Some might be a little playful, but for now it is all terribly pure. There is barely any hand-holding in these early episodes, which is a big contrast against Western versions where people are sucking face within the first 10 minutes and jumping into each other's pants before the end of the first day. So in a way, The Boyfriend is a refreshing change from the usual dating format we see on Australian screens, although it is clear that the most rewarding thing is to see real gay people from Japan in something that looks somewhat like a natural setting. I enjoyed getting to know these people. Some of them are charming, some of them are a bit annoying. Japan can often seem an enigma, so having a glimpse of their queer life is interesting. I'm not particularly interested in romance, so a substantial part of The Boyfriend is a little tedious for me, but it has succeeded at piquing my curiosity about how life might be for queer people in societies that are only beginning to be accepting of us. Warren, you have a love affair with Japan. Do the men in this show seem authentic to you?
Yeah, very much so. I think that's one of the biggest attractions of the show. I haven't come across a lot of inauthentic Japanese people. I must admit, I'm sure they exist, but I haven't come across them. I noticed that I read a statistic, I think it was 75% of the Japanese public support same-sex marriage. So I'm surprised that this is the first sort of, mainstream TV where they've touched on same-sex relationships as such in a dating show. It's really refreshing, Suzy. I found it quite, what's the word? Quite typically Japanese, quite stylish, quite polite, and I like the hosts. I don't know if you call them hosts or the commentary team, but you know, if you take a dating show here or an American dating show or something, you know, it's all raunch and drama and scandal, and there's none of that on this. The commentators, there's about, I think, 5 of them sitting around, and they're all lovely people. It's almost like they're reflecting what we're thinking as the guys start to interact with each other. I love it. And you know what else I love about it, Suzy? There's no dramatic music. There's like, and then, you know, you see someone, do they kiss or not? There's none of that. It's not polluted with any of this fake drama. No one's mean. No, there's no mean spirited people there. And like you said, there's no sex. No one's swapping partners. Any of that stuff that we would see on a dating show that was over here. I found it quite refreshing. I hate dating shows, but I enjoyed watching this one, I have to admit.
It is very calm, which is not very usual for reality TV that we see in this country. The only things I think of as calm would be like the Great British Bake Off, right? Which doesn't have the loud music and all that. It's just all quite harmonious and serene, which I feel like is really nice to have on the TV. And I think it is really well produced because, like, obviously I'm not very interested in how people fall in love, but just the tone of it and kind of a few episodes, but I kind of went, without me kind of.
Suzy, I think your mic has fallen out. You're very faint and echoey. I think your mic might have come unplugged.
Okay. Oh no, is this better? Is this better?
That's a little bit better. Yeah, definitely. No? But I found that too. I found the contestants were polite, and that seems to be a Japanese thing, isn't it? But very vulnerable and honest. To be honest, I found them. It just didn't seem fake to me as a dating show. But I hate dating shows in general.
I think reality TV in the West has become big business for many years now, and they have become very, very thoroughly produced. And I think in this one you feel like it's not produced so much. Like they are put obviously in a manufactured environment, but I feel like they're quite allowed to be themselves a little bit, and they're not under a lot of pressure to create drama. Like the American ones especially, they're under pressure to just make drama constantly. And that's how reality TV has evolved in America. And, I enjoy a lot of that stuff. But this is a different, this feels a little bit like the early days, a bit like early days of Big Brother, where you kind of the show is meant just to be curious, like to have a curiosity factor about how do people react when they're put in a situation like this, and it's good, and the people are even though they're polite, characteristically polite in a Japanese way, I find that they are actually quite fascinating, or maybe the editing is done in a way that is quite fascinating. You were saying the hosts, they sit in the panel like a goggle box situation.
Yeah.
They provide some commentary that helps us stitch together the narrative rather than a more American format of kind of forcing a narrative and making the characters tell the stories in a really obvious way. I think the characters are allowed to not be obvious. They're not under pressure to make clear stories, but the panelists kind of help us make sense of what we are watching. So it's a different style, it's a different format, but I think it's enjoyable. It's
the commentators, and it's quite interesting because they almost confirm our understanding of what Japanese culture is like. For example, I think there's one instance where something innocuous happens, like someone's thinking, I'm going to go up and say that I might be like this person or what have you, and they go, he's very forward, oh my goodness, and where and you can say that but being direct is obviously and is almost considered rude in some cases, and that's where I think the commentary adds value to the rest of us. It sort of explains what's going on and what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Yeah, it's also important that they had a couple of characters who are a little bit more gregarious, and I think that helps things along. But then also it kind of makes you see that you don't actually need, once you get used to their tone and to their way of communication, you kind of don't really need them to be extremely outgoing if you're kind of paying attention enough. And there is enough nuance in there, I think. It is a very simple format, but I must say quite enjoyable.
We're talking about The Boyfriend, streaming on Netflix, Japanese first same-sex dating show, which is currently, you can stream it. Suzy, when in the first episode, and the contestants are sitting around, I don't know, do we call them contestants? But they're sitting around and they're sort of talking about why they came on here. And can I quote one of them without spoiling? But I just want to quote one because this really touched me, and it just shows the level of authenticity of this show, and it's not fake. It's something that we can, I suppose, all identify with. And this is a gay man saying, it's very difficult to find a friend, yet alone a best friend. Whether I find romance or not, I want to foster a strong connection with all of you. I mean, I heard that and I thought, oh my goodness, I love him. It was beautiful, but it was just, I'm not here to get in your pants is what was really clear. It was about, I'm here. I know it's hard to find love. I know it's hard to even make friends, but I'm here to try and do that. And I thought, oh, so authentic.
Well, more importantly for me, I never feel like they're trying to make a show. I feel like they're there trying to connect with one another, and that's lovely to watch. Even though that it's a manufactured environment where they are foisted together to make something happen, but they don't kind of carry on in a performative way, which makes it quite a good watch. There are a couple of characters who are a little bit more outgoing. They're more keen to kind of find passion, and I think that's good to watch as well. The contrasts between characters, some of them are very, very, very like what's the word for it? Like they're very hesitant. They really hold themselves back. Very non-expressive. And then there are a couple of them, very like polite. I said earlier, who are more gregarious. Yeah, but and then. But even the polite ones, there are moments where they would say things that are extremely vulnerable and extremely revealing, and it works. It works somehow. It works out. The first couple of episodes, I thought, oh my goodness, that's really, really cool. Like they carry on like without a lot of passion, without a lot of energy. But actually, after a while, you kind of go, you don't really need that. You don't really need that. And it must be a cultural difference, clearly, the way that they communicate.
Definitely. I think one of my frustrations with the show was my Japanese isn't good enough to not have the subtitles off, and I felt like I had to be glued to the TV, and I couldn't miss anything because I wanted to hear what was going on and all the nuances, etc. But
you could play it so that they speak English.
I hate that. I don't like that. I like to hear their real voices. But, or maybe I don't know how to do that either. But the subtitles, though, I don't mind watching subtitles, but I couldn't go and do the dishes or anything like that. And some of the, the scenes you could easily go and do something else while they were setting up the coffee cart, for example. I liked it. What did you think of the first task? They had this task where they had to, they went to bed and in their lovely pajamas. It was so cute. And then they went into their bedrooms and they had to write a letter to someone else there, but not sign the letter. So, and then go out and post it in the letterbox, which was on their bedroom doors. I found, Suzy, that task was kind of something on a dating show that, we could all identify with in some respects. I know one of the guys said, if I don't receive a letter, that would mean that I'm very unattractive. I mean, let's face it, you're not going to get that on it, but you're not going to get someone saying that on a dating show here, are you? It's just not going to happen. And I found that to be a really vulnerable statement to make, to say, I reckon if I don't get a letter, I'm going to be unattractive. And if we were all, transported back to the sporting field and being picked by basketball teams or something like that, who isn't sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, if I don't get picked, I must be useless at sport?
That love letter thing is so simple, but it works, dramatically. And I like that it sort of harks back to something that's very old-fashioned, very romantic, very traditional, and that, contrasts nicely with this kind of us going into this whole new world of seeing gay people on Japanese TV. I like it. I must say I'm really surprised at how much I've enjoyed it. I thought, I don't know what's in it for me. I don't know what's in it that would interest me. But I found myself, not only enjoying it, but eventually quite invested in some of the characters. There are a couple of that I found extremely annoying, but still they keep me watching. And then there's some that I'm really rooting for,
What did you think of the addition of Usak, the muscle go-go boy dancer? I was surprised when I first saw that. I thought, oh, why are we adding this into the mix? But then you see his vulnerability as well, where he's thinking, I don't really know who I am if I'm being myself. I've got this external persona that I put on as a gay man with all my muscles and what have you, but I don't necessarily know who I am.
He's probably the most surprising character, isn't he? Because he looks like exactly like a go-go boy, and he does the dancing that's very, very sexy and all that. But aside from when he's not performing, he's just extremely shy, and that was that felt real. It didn't feel like he was putting it on or anything, and you could understand how, he does that as a job, he does that as a thing, or a part of him, but that's not entirely his entire identity. Yeah, I think the delicateness of the approach in this, of making this show is unique or at least different from what we're used to watching here, and it's taken me by surprise, and I'm trying to think, how are they going to wrap the show up?
I know.
Obviously, it's going to end. Like, are we going to imagine that some of them do fall in love and pair up, or is it just an ongoing, people getting to know each other?
Okay, wait, I wish I could go and buy a coffee from their coffee cart.
I don't think they know how to make a good coffee.
I think you're right there, but it doesn't matter. You just be they're so polite. They'll be, it's fabulous, best coffee I've ever had. I love it, Suzy. I enjoyed it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what happens at the end. It's called The Boyfriend. It is streaming on Netflix. Suzy, I've got Turning Japanese by the Vapors in the system. I'm dying to play it, but before we do, what's our homework for next week?
Next week, we are looking at the movie Runs in the Family on Netflix, in which Varun takes his trans son River on a road trip across South Africa to rescue River's mother from rehab. Adventure awaits in Runs in the Family for when I see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Suzy. And Barbara also. Thanks, Barbara, for your comment from Footscray saying, His Man, a queer male dating show from South Korea, is wonderful and even more polite. Might have to watch that one next, Barbara.